everyone. Welcome to our latest edition of SuperNova Commencements. We have a great show for you today. I'm so excited about our guest. First of all, I want to welcome class of 2020. We are excited to have you, high schoolers, college students, even young professionals. We just love chatting with you and hearing your questions. Today, we are talking with, and let me bring her up, Ann Cramer. Hi, Ann.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So Ann is currently a senior consultant with Coxe Curry. She has had a long career with IBM as a systems engineer, and then in the community space. She is a community force. She is a dynamo, and she is, I think, one of the most positive people I know. She always has a smile on her face, always cheerful and bright. So Ann, welcome. We're so excited to have you today.
Well, it is a joy, Sashi. I am honored and humbled to be here, especially with this class of 2020, which is a very special class. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to kick things off today by asking you about your career journey. I mentioned a little bit in your intro that you were a systems engineer at IBM and you majored in math. So how did you end up in community?
Oh, Sashi, this is such a great question. And I hope so many of the, especially women and men out there, will understand that often what you have in your eyesight or vision isn't often what you do in your life. That's me. I went to a women's college and was a math major, which I loved. I loved. And at the time when I was in school, the expectation was that women would be a teacher, a nurse, maybe a secretary, or you would have a ring, meaning that you were engaged to get married. Right. Well, I didn't have the patience to be a teacher. I loved physics, but not chemistry, so I wasn't going to be a nurse. I didn't have the patience to sit for a receptionist or secretary, and I didn't have a ring. So, oh my gosh, what is Ann going to do with her life? Fortunately, I had a fabulous head of the math department at Salem College in Winston-Salem. And he said, Ann, have you ever thought of working at IBM? And I said, excuse me, how do you spell that? Oh, IBM. So literally, this is so fun. I love this, Kashi, that in the senior year, January, which was Winston-Salem is a lot like Atlanta on the west side of the time zone. And so I went to Poughkeepsie, New York for an interview in January on the Hudson. It was dark and cold because it's east. Like at 4 o'clock, it was really dark and cold. And for this Southern girl, I was bone chilled. So the grace was that I got 3 job interviews and then offers within IBM. 2 were software developers and 1 was systems engineer, which is the technical support team to the sales team in the branch offices. And so I, of course, took the relationship side, the systems engineer offer in the hometown, Jacksonville, Florida, and was in that branch for a while. And it was the best experience I've ever had because I was able, 1, to be with a top brand, wonderful Fortune 5 company as a woman in the 60s, where I was able to both grow my career as well as just be professionally and personally so wonderfully enhanced. So then I was in Jacksonville for a while, but IBM was building out its regional support centers and they needed women in their regional support centers. Obviously, one was Atlanta. So I came to Atlanta in 1968 in that role as systems side, but I did a lot of education and training. And so it was an amazing coming to Atlanta at that time, as you can imagine, in 1968, and being literally in the middle of history. So the convergence of being with a top company, which was my more intellectual and academic side. I worked a lot in the community through organizations like the Junior League, and then was in a very vital downtown Episcopal church, which was right on the front line of the civil rights conversation. So the convergence of all 3 of those social, emotional, and academic kind of things put me literally in the middle of this community, which has been such a gift the whole time. So thank you for asking. So you never know what your original path was where it can be diverted, but more for the good.
Absolutely. You talked about getting to Atlanta in 1968.
68.
Yes, that was right in the throes of the civil rights movement, which Atlanta was a huge part of. You entered the city at such an interesting time, right? There was unrest, there was demonstrations. You know, it kind of feels like the city we're in right now. What do you tell students? How did you navigate that in terms of a career, like figuring out what decisions to make to propel you forward in that environment? How do students do that now? It seems like
I love that question. And a lot of it, and what I've had a lot of conversations literally these past 3 weeks, is that how to both be open to where the change is and the extraordinary needs that are expressed in our eyes that for many of us, for me, I was blinded because of where I lived and the privilege as a white woman from which I came. And the part that makes it so important, and I'll feel both back looking, i.e., but forward looking, is that in the stance of having the privilege of, you heard me say, 3 primary parts of my life: my work life, my faith life, and my community life all together created a sense of rootedness and the depth of where my value systems were so that I could be open to what was being presented to me in the experience of the racial injustice, the civil unrest, the rights that were being fought for, literally, where people were dying for both Black lives. And at the time, there were other things that were going on with young people with the hippie movement and drugs. There were people that were working on the women's issues. And so all of that in the convergence positioned me in a way that, plus with integration. And I was working involved as a volunteer in a group of schools that had just been integrated and got to know the neighbors, Black people in homes as people, which again became a part of that foundation. One of the things that I tell a lot of people is that roots and wings are the things we can give our children. The roots are that foundational grounding of values, beliefs, and the who I am that gives me then the ability to fly and have the flexibility and fluidity to make choices that indeed not just reflect my values, but have a sense of what my open eyes are to learn, to reflect, and act. So that's where I think we are today, is the hope that everyone, and I mean everyone, white people can listen, learn, reflect, and then act to begin to reduce those barriers and systems and structures that have been obliterating Black people for over 400 years, the pandemic of 1619, as well as others, our Muslim friends, our Jewish friends, our Christian friends, our people of all colors, to recognize that we've all been a part of the systemic oppression. So then how do we move forward becomes the challenge. But it's because of the rootedness, the sense of love and connectedness, which allows us to fly to new places.
I love that you have such a global view of this. It's not just rooted in one culture or one race. It's global. It's Muslims, it's Jewish people, it's white people, Black people, Indian people, you know, it's everybody, right?
All
so
people. But it's not, people. And I love all those things. Is I want to say, when I say I love you, Kashi, I don't have to say I love everybody, but I love you. And the same as, to me, I want to say Black lives matter. Today and yesterday and tomorrow, Black lives matter.
Absolutely.
And then, how do we project that into the systemic and structural changes? I think for a lot of us, we can't always claim where we were a part of that. I know where I was a part of that. So then I have to choose ways to move forward. Because one of my radical statements is that I never use the word America, because I came, again, because of my global view about IBM, and because I was a part of a global team. And America is from the top of Canada to the bottom of Chile. And therefore, when I say I want to make America great again, I say, yes, let's get Colombia and Guatemala and Chile and Canada. Yes, that's America. I love America. And so it's really important for us to understand those words because we're a part of that. So I say, yes, we say America, bring those Guatemalans in. We want those Mexicans. They're all a part of
I volunteer for that trip.
Yes, it's all a part of
that friendship trip. Yeah.
So those are those kind of things that we learn about borderless communities. Borders are made by politicians.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
So, you talked about how you got involved and you were involved in school integration in Atlanta. You are involved in a lot of things. Many very, very worthwhile causes. It just seems like if somebody is in need of help, Ann Cramer is there to save the day. And I'd really like to understand how you went from being focused on your career at IBM to this more global community thinker that you are. What is that North Star that guides you and your decision making as you figure out what you want to be a part of, what you say yes to, what you say no to? How do you decide?
Great question. Often I don't do a good job at it. But the and is, I do have a North Star. And people laugh at me because I'll say, since I was 12, when I grew up Christian as an Episcopalian, and was a part of a confirmation class that's similar to what the Jewish community and the Muslim community do with the turning of age. And in that confirmation class, I realized that all I was asked to do out of the covenant that we were studying was to love my neighbor, love me, love God. And the irony is, this is where it's so funny, at 12, I realized that I was supposed to respect, not just love, but respect every human being and seek justice and mercy. That was when I was 12. So that became that foundational, those words were put to who I was and became a part of what I would call my North Star, or I like to think of expectancy. The expectancy of then where am I going? How am I getting there? The path that I take, the people with whom I work, and therefore the choices I make for my life. And I keep it, as we say, it's seasonal. It's a journey. It's not one. It's how we live our life over time. And so for me, I have had my little personal mission statement since I was 12. Now, granted, you're going to hear where I have revised it over time by what I learn and how I hopefully have been growing, because my mission statement is how and where I make decisions. That says, I want to be a part of a world in which every child can grow up safe, healthy, educated, connected, and employable. And those words today mean so much more than they did even when I started thinking about this. And therefore, every child can grow up to be a contributing, interdependent person. Now, I used to say the word citizen, and someone called me on it. They said, Ann, I thought you said every child.
Right.
And I said, oh, I do. Well, every precious child isn't a citizen. Are you serious? And I said, oh, yes. So I'll change it to person. And you notice I say interdependent, not dependent, not independent,
right,
but interdependent in society. So I think, and that has been that's the organizations with which I work all have that same basic groundwork. The reflection, my partner, my precious husband, he and I are based in the same value system, but he does more direct service and my service is more board and advocacy, but the value and the direction is the same. And then the organizations with which I work. And you'll remember, I took 10 years out of IBM. After Megan was born, I realized that there was too much else to do. That was right after Andy Young was elected to Congress, and we moved into our house so we could vote in his district. That was in 1972. That was so funny.
True supporter.
Well, it was the right thing to do. We were so excited and stayed, and we've been in our house for 47 years in the oldest neighborhood in Atlanta. And when we came, it wasn't so popular, but now it's quite popular. But it's been rooted, again, rootedness. We can say stuck, but we say stable. So the partners, there's 10 years that I got to work in the community at a whole lot of levels, and then came back to IBM in 1989 when the decision for the Olympic Games had been made, and IBM knew it was going to be a sponsor, and they needed me back because I knew President Carter and all the people that had been involved in the community. So it worked at a United Way table. They said, will you come back? So it was a wonderful, I was able to be a mom and a community person, and then build on those relationships. And it wasn't a plan, it was a path. And I always like to say, yes, I have a path. Yes, I have a vision. Yes, I have a North Star. And how that evolves into a plan is actually kind of fabulous.
Yeah. It sounds like flexibility is key to creating that path for yourself.
One of my favorite words, and you'll hear me say these probably a lot, paradox, is fluidity and flexibility, but focused and fact. And so they sound opposite, but the collective, collaborative spirit of a paradox is the strength.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. Often paradoxes can seem negative, but it can be a very good thing. It just depends on your outlook. Only Ann Cramer, the most positive person I know, can make paradox a good thing.
Well, there you go. No, because you think about power. Power can be a paradox because you want to also have the powerless, the whole servant leader, paradoxical kind of strategy.
That's right. Wow, that's great. Okay, so I want to take our first student question.
Fabulous. Congratulations, students.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay, we have a few. So I am going to start with Meg's question.
Hi, Meg.
Is my degree even worth it if it doesn't contribute to ease the problems that these hard times bring, like the pandemic and Black Lives Matter?
Amen. The answer for me is a simple yes. The degree is almost like a key, and you have demonstrated that you have the perseverance and the patience, paradoxes, perseverance and push and patience to work through to gain something that's very precious. You've gotten a key, and the key, the degree, may or may not, quote, get you the job, even in the field in which you have the degree. But it demonstrates for me that you are now ready. You have a platform, a foundation upon which to walk and to run and to be. And how then you use that, as long as you, one, have your North Star, or going in a direction in which you know that supports you. I was just in a conversation this morning with an amazing young woman who had not been to protest because she is taking care of her mother and felt guilty. And we talked about who she is. She's much more of a literary person. And we talked about her writing and then how she can contribute in ways that are extraordinary through her writing, still being protective of her mom. We do have a pandemic going on.
Yes, we do.
And yet true to herself in how she can demonstrate what are important for her. So the answer is your degree is your key, and how you can use it to unlock many doors through which you can walk and make a difference in these issues that are so important.
Because these issues have so many different aspects to them.
And so many doors, yes.
So many doors, exactly.
Perfect, Kashi. Thank you, Miss.
Yes.
Thank
you. Anastasia, however you pronounce that, she'd like to know, what's the biggest misconception about after you graduate? Does life set you up for failure by society's expectations?
Oh,
it's a loaded question.
Yes. Well, it's often the expectations we put on ourselves in addition to what we think, feel, or are, those expectations that others are putting on us, like the adults in our lives, the significant others in our lives. And this is where the beginning to gain true to yourself is that the misconception is you walk out and the world is your oyster. And and Kashi knows this, I talk with a lot of people in their 20s. That's one of the fun things that I love to do. And there again is a paradox. So many think that they can do anything. And I want to be the CEO yesterday because I am so capable and I'm accomplished and I've traveled and I've done it all. And I say, no. So one of those misconceptions is that I get out and the world is my oyster and I can do it all. And then the world says, nope, you have to wait. You have to work. You have to demonstrate that you are a part of this community. And you're those old boomers, those old Generation X, that they just want me to wait. So I think it's we'll talk paradox again. Those two sides of the coin, and where we learn patience, demonstrate our real ability that in fact we can do something, or we start something like Kashi did, or I'm going to be a part of this community and demonstrate my value by bringing my intelligence, my experience, my expertise, contributing to the team, making the results work collaboratively. So I think that the misconception is, oh, once I've graduated, I'm done. I can do anything. The and is how you choose to do that thing in ways that is a part of the community in a collaborative fashion, and to use the skills and resources that are available. So good luck, Anastasia. Work on it. Move on. You can. Yes, you can. You will.
Yeah, I think the paradox concept that you come up with is really key to so much of this. Kayla would like to know, we have a lot of girls asking questions today, women, I should say. Kayla would like to know, what are the biggest lessons you've learned in life to date? And if you can tell one thing to your younger self, what would it be?
I'll start with that one because I've thought about that a lot. As a pleaser, I always want to please and delight and do things the right way. And I think that means that I don't have confidence in myself. So then the and is, and this is the sad part that's still true, is that younger self is have that confidence, not arrogance, but to really be trusting on that foundation at the same time for asking for questions, asking for help, and understanding that there are those that want to help you. So I think that's the advice that I would give, is to grow into that confidence, to be that extraordinary person that I see you as. And then the things that I've learned are so many things. And I'll start with the issues today, is to always be aware of who's around you, counting who's at the table, who's not. Why is it that I get to be here, and how do I get to include others? And I think that's the part of how being a part of a community has been so important to me. One, having been a white woman, at the only one at the table for so long, and not always. And yet I realized long ago, I liked being at the head of the table. So I began sitting at the head of the table. That didn't mean I was going to lead it, but it was a visual that said I knew that I could be at the table. So I do think there are a lot of things that we all have learned. Oh my gracious. The humble humility, the graciousness, living in gratitude, loving, not indifference, being involved in the arena, not on the sidelines, and having no fear, but respect for the kinds of experiences that you have. I would love to talk for you a long time about things we've learned, and then what I can't wait for you to be experiencing in the arena. Jump in.
And I think you have so much confidence to make the decisions that you made along the way at a time where women weren't often making the decisions, that the choices that you were making. So, to be involved at a time where it probably wasn't popular, and to make the decisions to go into IBM and go into math and not do the ring thing, and, do other things. I mean, you've really done quite a bit. It's really inspirational.
Well, I think a lot of times it's not the onesies, it's how it does the collective over time, and realizing, and we'll take the President Carter, that we knew him when he was a state senator, and then we worked on his governor's campaign, and then you began to work. So it's a building process, which is sort of back to Anastasia's question, is that you don't have to build it all in one day, that it is such an amazing, you're getting all the different pieces together and they connect and they match and they work together, and recognizing it, understanding connections, and building on experiences are the path. It's a long journey.
Right. And I want to ask you, at my Outstanding Atlanta ceremony,
Yes, ma'am.
induction ceremony thing, you gave a history of Atlanta. And I'd love to get your perspective on where Atlanta has come from and where Atlanta is going as a city in light of everything we're experiencing right now, all the uncertainty and change, and hopefully change for the better. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's so fun that often people use the word, it's the Atlanta way. And how my hope in terms of its own evolution and or path is the Atlanta way initially was very genteel, white male, hierarchical. They would take care of us, paternalistic, and that worked for them. Take care of Black people, take care of women, take care of whomever the other is, the poor people will take care. And the Atlanta way morphed and has been demonstrated to be that kind of gracious and committed, concerned people. My hope is that as we move today, tomorrow, the Atlanta way will keep the essence of respect, of values, again, respect for every human being, seeking justice and mercy, and collaboratively having the leadership table reflect who we are as a community. So therefore you remain as the base, the basic beliefs, and then it's experienced with a holistic approach where we have an amazing woman, Black woman as mayor. We have a new white woman head, we're following another white woman in our chamber. And so we think about, and we have leadership all over the community that reflects who we are as a community. And you mentioned Outstanding Atlanta, Kashi, last week when I did a town hall for Outstanding Atlanta, you say, what's great about Atlanta? Look at this picture. Black, white, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, law enforcement, ACLU, people in the health profession, a white male Republican, a person big in the Democratic Party, all on the screen together. All with hope, all with respect for one another, all listening together and collectively acting. So the Atlanta way is still there, not as the past, but how we move forward as a collective view. There was a great article in Bloomberg just yesterday about Atlanta and how it may be one of the few cities that can evolve out of this amazing pandemic, COVID pandemic 16-19 in ways that has successful results because we have both strong visible leadership and a collective, quote, community that can listen. As I mentioned, I live in town, and it was so fun to see the various protesters all converging, some from the King Center, some from the Carter Center, some from Decatur, some from North Side, some from South Side, all of them converging as a community.
So the Atlanta way, it's still alive.
Yes, but
just evolving.
Evolving, yes. I have a friend, a very good friend, who said, we're going to get rid of the Atlanta way. I said, no, we don't get rid of the Atlanta way. We get rid of how we live the Atlanta way. But grace, respect, dignity, justice, and mercy.
Right. And kindness and love, right?
Yes, ma'am. Love does conquer all.
Yes, it really does. Okay, I'd love to end on that note, but we've got one more question I want to get to. It's a different question. Hudson would like to know about board service.
Oh, good. I'm sorry, what, sweetie?
Board service. So when is it how young is too young to be on a board, or when can you start?
I think yesterday. The joke is, every board that I know of, both the big boards and the emerging nonprofits want you, Hudson. Someone who comes in, it's not about the age, but it's your perspective. And how then do we reach the young people? How do we reach the students? How do we reach the young professionals? And you are that person. The and again is as coming in as a person on a board, the understanding of what the expectations are. The expectations that you give your time, you show up to the meetings, you give your talent, you participate, you're on committees, you attend all the gatherings, and then you give your treasure, that you must make both a cash, and I say that real words, money, cash contribution, as well as what we say is time or in kind or pro bono. So the answer is, I'd love your name. I'd love where your passion is. I'd love the kind of nonprofits you're considering, and we'll put your name forward because we need a lot of folks. I'm saying this to Kashi, under 40, right? Kashi, we're looking at young people under 40 that have been through a lot of our local leadership programs, and they're gobbled up in a heartbeat because that kind of point of view is so relevant to effective, successful organizations.
I think that's especially true today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So great advice. Well, Anne, I just want to thank you. I wish we had so much more time with you, but your advice has just been invaluable for the students, and I always learn something when we talk. So I appreciate you for spending the time with us today, and just want to thank you for being here.
Oh, it has been my joy, and I thank you, Kashi, for doing this, and to all of the folks who are looking and listening, just thank you for your lives and joining in the arena. We need you. Thank you. But love does conquer all.
It does conquer all. And so I just want to give everyone a little bit of a preview for next week. Next week is Father's Day week.
Woo.
And so who am I having on?
Oh,
but my dad. Yes, R.K. Sehgal, or Sehgal is actually true. We are having him on. He just wrote a book, and it's filled with amazing stories. He's the true American dream. Rags to riches, coming over to the United States with $16 in his pocket, and he's, found success on his own terms. So, so we have him and a lot of other amazing guests coming up. Graduates, I just want to say congratulations again. We are excited to follow your journeys and your progress. Leave us comments, share with us what you have going on. We are excited to celebrate you. And remember that it is a blessing to be a blessing. So stay healthy, stay safe, and see you next time. Bye. Bye. Thank you.